Welcome to Kansas Ag Report with your host, Ryan Hallman.
Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Brian Hallman, and here's our lineup for today's show. In Ag News, we'll take a look at local and national headlines affecting Kansas farmers. In our Ag feature, we revisit an interview with climatologist James Garris about shifting weather patterns across the country. And inside Kansas Ag, Kansas Wheat talks to us about genome research, and KDA lets us know about Dairy Month coming up in June. And in news you need to know, we get our weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association, look back at last week's market activity with the guys from Paragon, and we'll let you know about important events coming up around the state of Kansas. Glad you could join us.
Closed captioning brought to you by
The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. KansasSoybeans.org.
Ag Risk Solutions. Experience, knowledge, integrity. Your crop insurance solution, Ag Risk Solutions. Kansas Wheat Commission. Leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com. Kansas Livestock Association. Supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org.
Here's our national headlines for this week in Ag News. An air quality specialist says U.S. livestock production accounts for less greenhouse gas emissions than some critics claim. Dr. Frank Metloner, an animal science professor at the University of California, Davis, says that there's a lot of misinformation being spread about the carbon footprint of animal agriculture. He goes on to say that leading scientists as well as the EPA have quantified the impact of U.S. livestock production on all greenhouse gas emissions at only 4.2%. But the carbon footprint of energy production in the U.S. is more than 30%, and the transportation sector accounts for another 27%. Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack announced the enrollment of more than 800,000 acres in the CRP program. The Conservation Reserve Program provides nearly $2 billion annually to landowners, and those dollars make their way into local economies, supporting small businesses and creating jobs. This was one of the most selective sign-up periods in CRP's 30-year history, with the lowest percentage of applications accepted. A nationwide acreage limit was established for the program in the 2014 Farm Bill, capping the total number of acres that may be enrolled at 24 million for fiscal year 2017 and 18. Corn and wheat have made solid progress these past weeks in most production states. Recent reports show that 74% of U.S. corn is planted, which is a little behind last year, but ahead of the 5-year average. Missouri is the furthest along at 94% planted, followed by Minnesota at 89%, while Michigan is the furthest behind with 18% planted. 62% of U.S. winter wheat is up and is in good to excellent condition, with 57% of the crop headed. 77% of spring wheat is planted compared to 51% on average, and 39% has emerged. In local news, a new joint study by Kansas State University's Department of Ag Economics and the University of Georgia shows lenders from across the nation are expecting the financial outlook for farmers to tighten in the coming seasons. The survey points to lenders seeing a need for increasing risk premiums for agricultural lending. Lenders say they are expecting the number of non-performing loans to continue to rise, particularly for corn, soybeans, wheat, and the beef subsectors. The Shawnee County USDA Service Center will be hosting an open house on June 15th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Office staff will be present to discuss policies, programs, and opportunities that are currently available to operators, landowners, beginning farmers and ranchers, socially disadvantaged farmers, and many others. Should you have any questions about the open house, contact Lance Thompson at 785-266-9053, extension 2. U.S. Senator Pat Roberts released the following statement on the Obama administration's decision to abandon its latest attempt to list the lesser prairie chicken as a threatened species. I have said all along that with a little rain, we will see the lesser prairie chicken population bounce back. Senator Roberts has consistently signed letters in opposition of the listing, as well as supported an amendment in the Farm Bill to review lesser prairie chicken conservation efforts underway. Up next in our Ag Feature, we revisit an interview with climatologist James Garris about shifting weather patterns across the U.S. You're watching Kansas Ag Report. Please stay tuned. Thank you for watching Kansas Ag Report. You have made us the highest rated ag TV show in the state of Kansas, and we thank you. If you would like to advertise your business on Kansas Ag Report, give us a call, 785-580-3287.
Closed captioning brought to you by
The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. KansasSoybeans.org.
Ag Risk Solutions. Experience, knowledge, integrity. Your crop insurance solution, Ag Risk Solutions. Kansas Weed Commission. Leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for weeds. Online at kswheat.com.
Kansas Beef. Celebrate beef all May during Beef Month.
Spring is here, and Premier Farm & Home can help you stop crabgrass before it starts. With a 6-month residual, Premier has what you need to protect your lawn all season long. Premier Farm & Home, 900 Southwest University Boulevard, or find them on the web at heycow.com.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
You need a partner that you can count on to be there for your business, providing a depth of understanding to risk management issues so you don't have to. A knowledgeable support team located in your area, delivering products and services to make you more successful.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
Spring is sprung, and Premier Farm & Home has what you need to keep your yard crabgrass free throughout the season. With a complete line of pre-emergence, you can stop crabgrass before it starts. Premier Farm & Home, 900 Southwest University Boulevard, or find them on the web at heycow.com.
Thanks for staying with us this morning. We're at the 2016 Kansas Soybean Expo here in Topeka, and we're joined by James Garris. James, thanks for joining us. You were the keynote this morning, so kind of big shoes to fill. You had a packed room this morning. So climatologist, historical climatologist.
Indeed.
Let's just kind of jump into this. Weather affects everything. Weather certainly is affecting price when it comes to commodities, soybean being one of those commodities.
That is true. One of the big reasons for this is we have a oceanic oscillation called the Pacific Decadal Oscillation, which in 2005 it went from being warm to being cold. And so it's changed the precipitation that is around the United States. It's changed where it's easier or harder to grow. And it takes us a while to get used to that. And to add to that, we've had El Niños and La Niñas, several over the past 10 years, that spike or drop the prices. When we've had La Niñas, prices have spiked. When we've had El Niños, the prices have dropped. And we're going to continue seeing those spikes at least for another 5 years before agriculture finally starts getting used to the new precipitation patterns from the Pacific.
And when we talk about precipitation patterns, California being one of those that actually has no precipitation.
Unfortunately, no. The cold Pacific, and unfortunately they have about 15 more years, but the cold Pacific means that California gets very little rainfall and it's not very dependable. Now they've been getting, and it's been making national headlines, a lot of rain and some snowpack, and that's because of the El Nino. The warm water from the El Nino is bringing much needed rainfall to California. Now, it's going to be good, it's going to make for a good agricultural season next year, but it's not going to end the drought unless it breaks records throughout the entirety of winter and spring, which is not terribly likely. But they are getting rainfall, but when the El Nino ends, there's a good chance that they're going to be going back to those dry and less precipitatious conditions based on the Pacific.
Well, you look at the Midwest, you know, Kansas being smack dab in the middle of the U.S. We've struggled. We had a drought 2 years ago. This year we had a very wet summer, which is very rare for us here in the state. Again, those patterns are going to affect us long term. You said 12 years for California. Are we in a 12-year term also?
The Kansas as well. Kansas is affected not only by the Pacific, but also by the Atlantic, AMO, Atlantic Multidecadal Oscillation. And the way that those are working, one being cold and the Atlantic being hot, it means that Kansas is smack dab in the middle of being affected by both of them, and it means shorter climate conditions, El Ninos and La Ninas, can shift whether or not you get precipitation. This upcoming La Nina could be a good chance that the precipitation will not be available when the La Nina hits. But because of that, it is another 15 years before the AMO and the PDO switch. But then you're going to have weather conditions more akin to the 1980s and early 1990s. So if that was good in that time, which I believe it was much better at that point, that means good news. It's just a while away.
Perfect. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to finish speaking with James. You're watching Kansas Ag Report. See you.
This segment brought to you by Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
Thanks for staying with us. We're at the 2016 Kansas Soybean Expo here in Topeka, and we're joined by James Garris. Again, thank you for staying with us. Climatologist, historical climatologist, I think I got that right.
Yep.
I get to talk to a lot of very interesting people with my job, and you're my first historical climatologist. So anyways, let's jump into this. Seed manufacturers, research being done at university levels are all based on drought-tolerant crops. Now, if you think about it, what impact does your research have when it comes to working with seed companies?
Well, we do consult with a lot of different seed companies for a variety of reasons, both short and long term. And in a lot of the consulting, the interest is how long is this drought likely to last, as well as why is it happening? And once again, because of the current oceanic conditions that we have, the PDO and the AMO, it's shifting where jet streams move and it's shifting where precipitation falls. And so because of that, in the U.S., we have had for the last 10 to 15 years, and we'll continue to have for another 10 to 15 years, a lot more drought-like conditions. But the good news for this is that it means that when we can start developing these drought-resistant crops, we not only have the ability to make them resist better drought, but we know where we are going to have to utilize them the most. And so when we know where precipitation, that's another thing we're asked about, is where the rain is going to come, we can start utilizing where we send it, where we keep it, where we outsource it to other areas that might need just a little bit more rainfall. And that's going to overall make for a much easier time in growing crops over the next 10 to 15 years.
And when we look at regionally, you know, the South, Florida, that area has had a ton of rain the past couple of years. On the West Coast, like you said, California is struggling. You look at dairies and things like that, the impact that not having rain or even cold temperatures may have long term.
Indeed.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
If there's one thing Kansas farmers understand, it's unpredictability. Unpredictable crop conditions keep farmers on their toes. But what if those farmers had drought-tolerant wheat, or maybe even wheat with resistance to common pests? Edward Okanoff, Associate Professor in Plant Pathology at Kansas State University, has been creating markers on wheat ancestor species genomes to identify valuable genes like these that could improve wheat's resiliency. Wild relatives of wheat have valuable genes that have resistance to pests, pathogens, and stress factors such as temperature, drought, or wind, said Okanoff. However, access to these useful genes in wheat breeding programs is limited because they have not been identified or marked. Okanoff says researchers are trying to use some useful genes that are found in wild ancestors of wheat by transferring them to modern plants and then actually putting them into the field. So far, the project has taken about 3 years and will need about 1 year to be fully completed. Starting next year, researchers will start putting these plants in the field and will start phenotyping them for drought, disease resistance, and for all the traits. For more information on research projects funded by the Kansas Wheat Commission, visit kansaswheat.org.
Kansas is one of the fastest growing dairy regions in the United States, and the Kansas Department of Agriculture is pleased to celebrate our hardworking dairies during the month of June, as the governor's proclaimed it Kansas Dairy Month. I'm George Blush, Kansas Program Manager, and I'm proud of the Kansas dairy industry, a valued part of the Kansas agriculture. And the Kansas dairy and milk production industry grew in 2015, with 143,000 dairy cows producing 3.1 billion pounds of milk valued at $744 million. But behind these numbers are more than 300 family-run dairy farms owned by Kansas dairy farmers who are valued and influential members of their communities. The growth of the Kansas dairy industry means economic gains for local communities in the state of Kansas and more wholesome, safe, nutritious dairy products for families in Kansas and across the region. Kansas dairies are also becoming more progressive as dairy farmers and processors are making investments to enhance the dairy in the state. Producers are adding new innovative technologies like robotic milking machines, and a world-class milk powder production facility is currently being constructed. Kansas dairies have worked hard to become efficient, and they take pride in the work they do. Dairy farmers are committed to the health, comfort, and well-being of their cows and to providing high-quality dairy products, which are an important part of a nutritious diet. So join us and enjoy Kansas milk, cheese, yogurt, and ice cream as we celebrate the important contributions of the Kansas dairy industry during Kansas Dairy Month this June.
If you would like to advertise your business on Kansas Ag Report, give us a call, 785-580-3287.
This segment brought to you by Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
Spring is sprung, and Premier Farm & Home has what you need to keep your yard crabgrass free throughout the season. With a complete line of pre-emergents, you can stop crabgrass before it starts. Premier Farm & Home, 900 Southwest University Boulevard, or find them on the web at heycow.com.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
You need a partner that you can count on to be there for your business. Providing a depth of understanding to risk management issues so you don't have to. A knowledgeable support team located in your area, delivering products and services to make you more successful.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
I will take action against herbicide-resistant weeds. I will know my weeds, and I will stop them before they go to seed. I will do whatever it takes to give my crops the upper hand. And I will use multiple herbicide sites of action because every action counts. I will take action, this time for all time.
Here at Blue River Traders, we have the greatest selection of rustic and western furniture in Kansas.
At Blue River Traders, you can select from an inventory of rustic lodge or western furnishings. With a designer on hand, Blue River Traders will help create the look you desire.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Spring is sprung, and Premier Farm & Home has what you need to keep your yard crabgrass free throughout the season. With a complete line of pre-emergents, you can stop crabgrass before it starts. Premier Farm & Home, 900 Southwest University Boulevard, or find them on the web at heycow.com.
Kansas Governor Sam Brownback recently signed 2 bills of importance to the state's livestock producers. One provides sales tax relief for ranchers affected by the spring wildfires in Kansas. The other updates Kansas brand laws. KLA supported the bill passed by the legislature providing a 1-year sales tax exemption for property and services purchased in 2016 that are necessary to construct, reconstruct, repair, or replace fences damaged or destroyed by fire during the 2016 calendar year. Taxpayers may file for a sales tax refund after July 1st for fencing and associated labor costs incurred during the first half of this year. Senator Steve Abrams of Arkansas City and Representative Kyle Hoffman from Coldwater largely were responsible for convincing a conference committee to include this provision in the tax bill. The other bill signed by the governor updates the state's brand laws, many of which date back to 1939. It repeals the county option brand law that was authorized in 3 Kansas counties but is currently not in use. The bill also will modify current law requiring producers bringing branded cattle into Kansas from another state to obtain a brand permit from the Animal Health Commissioner. Language in the bill, which was supported by KLA, grants an exemption for cattle brought to Kansas for grazing or feeding for less than 12 months.
Good morning. I'm Derek Hermish with Paragon Ag. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I was reminded of that question this past weekend when a friend of mine quoted it. Pretty simple, right? If you're given a long enough length of time, you could eat a Buick if somebody ground it up and sprinkled it over your cereal in the morning over the course of 20 years. However, it's an overwhelming task when presented with that elephant all at once on your plate. The knife and fork won't be enough to get that job done. With this year's wheat harvest just around the corner, we have what looks to be an abundant supply situation yet again with a carryover from last year, assuming there is no drastic weather event keeping us from crossing the finish line in the next month or two. The USDA estimated next year's U.S. wheat stocks to exceed 1 billion bushel. Speaking of eating elephants, it's been a while since wheat made it into the feed rations at a steady rate in cattle country. That scenario may be shifting with recent drops in wheat cash price that have put it dead even with corn in some local markets. Time will tell whether we see a full-length commitment from cattle feeders to pursue the use of feed wheat in their rations, but the likelihood of it seems plausible. If that is the case, we may finally get a real boost chewing through that overwhelming wheat supply we've been dealing with for the last couple of years. When the hamburger and the bun are both part of the elephant, we can cut our eating time in half and make some real headway. However, getting from trunk to tail will still take a considerable amount of time. I'm Derek Hermish. Have a good day.
Closed captioning brought to you by
The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. KansasSoybeans.org.
Ag Risk Solutions. Experience, knowledge, integrity. Your crop insurance solution, Ag Risk Solutions. Kansas Wheat Commission. Leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
Kansas Beef. Celebrate beef all May during Beef Month.
Well, that's our show for today. I hope you'll join us each week for more news and information about agriculture in the state of Kansas. I'm Brian Hallman, and thanks for watching.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
You need a partner that you can count on to be there for your business. Providing a depth of understanding to risk management issues so you don't have to. A knowledgeable support team located in your area, delivering products and services to make you more successful.
Here at Blue River Traders, we have the greatest selection of rustic and western furniture in Kansas.
At Blue River Traders, you can select from an inventory of rustic lodge or western furnishings. With a designer on hand, Blue River Traders will help create the look you desire.